Like say, why hast is quees to elder? Living for today, grandfather and grandmother. Today we come to do a ceremony for these poles that my brother has made. My brother, he's the artist. My brother, Les, his name is Bulna. He's the baby of the family. I'm the oldest of the family. And today, I'd like to share with you that this is the Okanagan Nation territory. We haven't given up our land. This is unceded land, unceded territory. And it's very important to know this part of the history. Our history isn't being taught in school. And so it's so sad to hear that the people that don't know that this is Okanagan Nation territory. We've been here for thousands and thousands of generations. When the immigrants first come here, they thought we were lazy because we weren't plowing, tilling the land and growing crops. Well, we didn't have to. Everything we needed grew naturally here. This was our mother. She took care of us. She fed us. She'd give us everything we needed. And one of the things is we had to work hard for our food. We never had diabetes. A lot of the sickness we have today, we never had before. But this territory goes all the way from down and halfway into Washington State, all the way north of Revelstoke, all the way, used to go all the way to the Rocky Mountains, all the way to the headwaters of the Smelkmeen River. That was our territory. There used to be 1 million or so of us. But when the immigrants come here, they brought disease that wiped us out. Then that wasn't good enough. They brought blankets with smallpox that really wiped us out. So now we're down to a few thousand of us. And our people are our population is getting more and more. And now we're on a reservation. We took care of the immigrants when they come here. We showed them how to survive on this land, what foods to eat, medicines. And then they turned on us. And they put us on a reservation. We weren't allowed to gather more than 5 because they were worried that if we gathered more than 5, we'd start a war. So when this pandemic started, the non-natives didn't last a month and they couldn't handle it. And you imagine us, we had to get a permit to leave the reserve. It was like that for many, many years. And then after that, they started a residential school. They put us in the residential school. We put out a book. It's called Taking the Indian Out of the Child. And this is what they try to do to civilize us. Instead of civilizing us, they made us into savages. We used to have our own government. Our chiefs were taught how to be a leader from the time they were a child until they took that position. And then they had that position for life. And so when the immigrants come here, the government, they seen that kept us together, kept us strong. They decided, well, we're going to make this different. They created the Indian Act. And they said, you can't have a chief for life. That's not right. You got to vote for a chief every 4 years. And that's how we are today. And now we don't teach that chief how to lead. We just, well, this person over here will be all right. Let's put him in there. And he doesn't do a good job, we'll kick him out. We'll put somebody else in there. It's just a vicious cycle. They do not know how to lead and take care of the people. That's how we used to be. We were one people. We knew that a community, a nation, now we're separate. We think in a colonial way. And thinking colonial, this is mine, this is mine. No, this is ours. Now we're trying to teach our people how to think the way we used to think. And it's not easy. Our language is almost lost. When my dad went to residential school, he was 4 years old when he was taken away from his mother and dad. But can you imagine the whole community, all the kids are gone. All the kids were gone. Can you imagine how the parents and aunties and uncles felt? No kids. So when our kids came back from school and they had kids, what they missed out was how to be a parent. Because now your children, they watch you and they learn how to be a parent. And this is why our people are having such a hard time, because they don't know how to parent. And so now we're breaking that cycle. We're doing our best to teach our young ones how to be parents. We're teaching our language. And nowadays our kids, they go to school, they learn the language. When they come home, their parents don't know how to speak the language, so there's a barrier there. But we're slowly succeeding on bringing our language back. We're slowly succeeding in bringing our ceremonies back, like today, what we're going to do here. Very important. Ceremony is important. Everything we did was ceremony a long time ago. And one of the things is, when we do ceremony, that's what keeps us healthy. That's what's important, is our ceremonies, our language, our land. The land is so important. When we take care of it, we knew how to manage it. We used fire to take care of the land. We are a part of the land. We know when it's time to dig our roots, pick our berries, fish, hunt, make fires to burn, to keep the land healthy. It's like when you have your parks, they want to keep it healthy, but they don't allow us to do our responsibilities there. That's why parks become sick, because they don't allow us to do that. And now society is slowly starting to realize we do have knowledge. We are not dumb, stupid Indians. We know how to manage the land. And we're starting to teach our kids that, how to hunt. But this is who we are. We are a proud people. And every time you see an Indian on the street and he's drunk, think about what it took to get him there or her there. The abuse our people went through in residential school was horrific. Horrific. I hear some of them tell us stories since at 2:15. They tell me what they went through. I had to go home and I had to get in a creek and bath to get rid of that hurts and pain they shared with me, so I wouldn't get sick. Can you imagine? They carried that horrific things they seen for 50, 60, 70, 80 years. They carried that with them, and now they're starting to share that. But I'm glad all of you are here today to witness what we're going to do. I'm very proud of my brother Mulna for what he does. He does his best to take care of his children, to teach them the language, the culture. His wife, she comes from New York. She's Onondaga. She's learned our language. I haven't. But I do know the ceremonies and the importance of those ceremonies. That's important. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to smudge. And when we smudge, that's like washing with smoke. That smoke gets rid of that negative energy. Because sometimes we get a lot of negative energy. Somebody thinks negative towards you, and that sometimes it gets on your aura. This aura is right here. And so we wash that with that smoke to get rid of that negative energy. And so when we smudge, I smudge my ears so I can hear good things. I smudge my eyes so I can see good things. I smudge my mouth so good things come out of my mouth. I smudge my heart so I have a good heart. I smudge the rest of my body. I smudge, when I smudge people, I smudge their neck and their shoulders, because that's where we carry a lot of our stress and our hurts. And when I smudge them there, they can feel it. They feel that lightness come off them, that heaviness. So that's why it's important to smudge. But a long time ago, my elders used to tell me, we never smudged like that. They said we smudged, we went and we got a fir bough. And they use that fir bough and they dip it in water and they brush you off. That's how they used to smudge. But now we use that sage, cedar. What's that? What's that?
Juniper.
Juniper. But there's many different things we use to smudge, to clean ourselves. So I don't go on too long here, but I thought it was important to share this with you, what our people have been through. And now we're starting to rise up. And so I'm happy that we're asked to do this today. I'm glad that Okanagan College is here for our children. When I went to college and university, there was nobody there to help me when I went there. And here they had Marcy, and Marcy did a good job helping our native students navigate the college. It's not easy. So I thank all of you. I thank my elder, my mentor, my teacher. So I thank them. I thank all the young ones that are here today. And our principal. So thank you, all my relations.
Okay.
I do want to just take a moment to acknowledge that we are standing on the traditional and unceded territory of the Syilx Okanagan, as is our Kelowna and our Vernon campuses. And if you're with us today from Salmon Arm, our Salmon Arm campus is on the traditional and unceded territory of the Secwepemc. And if you're fortunate to have come down from our Revelstoke Centre today, I want to acknowledge that our Revelstoke Centre is on the traditional and unceded territories of the Syilx Okanagan, the Secwepemc, the Sinixt, and the Ktunaxa. So again, Lemnet, thank you all for being here today for what is a very significant and indeed a very joyous day. Not only for those that call this campus home, but to our entire learning community. On behalf of everyone at Okanagan College, I want to make sure that I extend a warm welcome and gratitude to artist Les Louis. I know he's here. And we're going to hear from Les here in a little bit. But thank you so very much for being with us today and sharing your incredible creations. I also want to take a moment just to recognize that we're joined today clearly by our two incredible elders, as well as Tim Lazard, who is from Penticton Indian Band, along with Clint George, also from PIB. And just I have to do the small plugs. Just want to recognize Tim as an esteemed grad of our Sustainable Construction Management program. And also just want to recognize Elder Grace Gray Eyes is also a distinguished alumni. So thank you very much again for being part of our community. Also want to just recognize other distinguished members of community in the regions. So we're gathered here today to honor and celebrate Indigenous art and culture, ways of knowing and doing, and the importance of infusing these elements into our campus spaces and everything that we do at Okanagan College. This goal is aligned with Okanagan College's continued commitment to work with and learn from Indigenous communities in the region that we share. And this commitment was reaffirmed this week as we carry forward into the next iteration of our commitment to Indigenous OC, building on the exceptional dedication and work of all the members of the OC community, both internal and outside the college, that are part of our Indigenous Task Force. The story polls that you'll have a chance to see today are truly stunning. And if you haven't taken a moment to just stand next to one of them and take a look, I highly encourage you to do so. Not only are they spectacular, but they create conversation with students and colleagues and continue a wellspring of dialogue, learning, and inspiration for everyone here at the college. I was lucky enough when I joined Okanagan College to have the chance to tour our Nakul Lamin garden on the Kelowna campus, and was struck immediately by the beauty of Les Louis' artwork. For those of you that aren't aware, we do have the story polls in Kelowna as well, and so it is truly an element that we can bring to all of our learners throughout the region. So an immense thank you, Les, for sharing your work with us. We are deeply honored and proud and appreciative to be graced by your work. The installation of these poles brings a lasting and visible celebration of the Sioux Okanagan culture and heritage that every student, every team member, and visitor will have the opportunity to learn about and engage with as they come to Okanagan College. In closing, I want to recognize the efforts of the Indigenous Services team, members of the Indigenization Task Force, and all the team members of this campus and across the OC community that helped make today a reality. I know that it has been months in the making, and the chance to do it on such a beautiful day is incredibly thankful. So now I'm going to turn things over to Les Louis, who's graciously offered to tell us and to share about his works and in the process behind these incredible works. So Les, thank you very much.
Why hustle halt isquis Niolna Nkama isquis Les Louis. All nervous now. I'm taking a Inkalchin course, a language course twice a week. I'm in year 3, and my Sukhmat Mayams have our class. I thought I was skipping class, and they showed up here to support me. So, Kukuks, Limlemt for being here. They're like, "Oh, good, you can say your whole speech in Inkalchin." And I'm like, so I'm too nervous now. So yeah, just Limlemt. I was asked to do these polls like a couple of years now, almost. It's been. And when they Anthony asked me to come to look at them, they cut down these trees on campus here, and they wanted to repurpose them. And there was about 5 or 6 slabs, the log slabs, and so I came over and I picked them up, and he's like, "Oh, how long is it going to take you?" I don't know, like a month or 2. Or I got them home, and I had to let them dry out because they were just freshly cut, and so that kind of turned into almost a year. So they dried out because I had to peel them, and then they had to dry out, and then just the inspiration for the pictograph images that I put on them came to me, and I just I worked with the log, just what I felt is what came out. It was funny. We're talking about the ones up in Kelowna, and I think we lifted those by hand. Yeah, yeah, but I was like, oh, so when we came to do these ones, I'm like, you get a pitchfork and get a. So we loaded those up with the machine because those are pretty heavy. And we're just talking about, he was asking me how did I unload them. And I was like, hooked them up to my quad on a tow rope, and I pulled them off at the workshop I was working in. So yeah, it was a process because it had to be, the purpose. They wanted to repurpose these, so definitely repurposed them. Came and picked the two largest pieces, and got them back to my workshop, and just the process of peeling them and prepping them to work on was probably more work than the actual carving and finishing. So that whole process, it was really it was a really lengthy process to get them to here, and sometimes I look at the simplicity of them, and it's taken me a long time to really, I really appreciate the simplicity that the pictographs portray, because there's so much more. Like every image, it's not just this is a tree, or like the story is just, it can be up to interpretation of the viewer, and what it symbolizes to you. And a lot of the images you can look at and you can recognize, if they're a deer track or a deer, or the sun symbol, a flower, a trail. Like you can just look at those images and kind of come up with your own interpretation of what those images might mean in this area. And I tried looking at the area we're in, like Sinpington, and honoring the area that these are on. And with the trees and the elk and the deer, the tracks, that the students are making as they're coming in here, and they're going to be making tracks. They're going to be making their own path, and hopefully the sun will always be shining on them. So I was thinking of the students as well. When I first started my post-secondary education, I came here for my first 4 classes, so it's kind of it's an honor to be able to have some of my pieces permanently installed here. This is one of the I started off here, and then the next year I went up to Kelowna to Okanagan University College and worked up there. So to have 2 pieces up there is pretty, it's just I never would have believed my path would take me to where I'm on. And like my brother Chwelna shared, my journey, we're working on our, revitalizing and bringing our language back, and that's so important. I'm really proud of my Inachanov, my wife over here. She's from Onondaga, New York, and she's learned our language, and she is my teacher. And my slacht, he's like, he's co-teaching, and it's so good. We have this small group, and it's so, we're really coming together, and we lift each other up, and it's really hard. And the stories my brother shared with the residential school, and me being the youngest in our family, and hearing my father share those stories that he went through with residential school. So I'm I got really haspa'us, a real good heart to be able to have occasions like this where we can celebrate our path that we're on now with education, and recognizing our our indigenous communities that we are in. We are still here. Puti Kuala. And it's good that we have allies, and we have our non-indigenous friends and neighbors that we just need to come together and just share knowledge and get to know one another. And this COVID's really putting some restrictions on our communities. Being able to visit one another, being able to sit down and share stories with one another, because I think we're at that point now where we need to reach out to one another and start sharing those stories. And I think these story polls is that's a great start, because you can just look at them and make up your own story and interpretation of what that is. So yeah, there's this one here, and then there's one in the courtyard as well, and there's some pictographs that are just around the concrete sides there, and so they're up for interpretation. So if you have any questions after on any of them, feel free to catch up to me, and I'd be happy to share what I can.
Ani bojo kisho bishtan dinjiga indijnakaj bikajanang dunjba jijikodem mami kwand mapiaya and sokanaga. So hello everyone, my name is Anthony Isaac. Happy to be here on the traditional unceded territory of Okanagan, and this beautiful ceremony. And as always, it's really nice to chat with Les and Leon and Grace and hear their wisdom. And it's just something I've definitely missed over COVID. Just that connection we talk about. And so I want to talk a little bit about our vision and how we got to a spot like this. And one of our main visions with regards to indigenizing common spaces is to establish a more stronger presence, a more vibrant Indigenous OC. And it's this sustained commitment that has allowed us to have some of these central and prominent art and cultural installations, or even we look at the Center for Excellence, and it was also designed with input and guidance of local First Nations. And so that's a big vision we have in terms of indigenizing all of our campus spaces. And it just beautifies and offers us so much opportunity to share knowledge, our ways of knowing and doing, come together for programming, and have little sharing circles like this. So it's an important part of our work, and supporting the advancement of knowledges and culture and language is a pretty integral part of that vision. So we talk about language here and the good work that Les Lewis is doing and in the community, and just the language revitalization efforts we're seeing and the cultural revitalization. So this is a big part of that, and it's the stories and the values and our societal laws and our beliefs that are perhaps a little bit more important than the art piece alone, right? It's a beautiful piece in its own, and we create some times to share what those mean. And I've always enjoyed my time chatting with Les and trying to understand what different ones mean, and just continue our conversation on that front. So I guess with that work, we really just wanted to bring a lot of this presence more to the forefront. And we've long shifted away from our Aboriginal Service Centre being a safe spot on campus, and really trying to establish a safe campus for everyone through work like this, right? And so that's an important part of our journey with Space and Place as well. I recently conducted a survey with Indigenous students on indigenizing campus spaces on all of our campuses, really. And I just want to read a quote from one participant. They said, "When I walk on campus, I'd like to see my culture looking back at me in a way that gives me a sense of pride. And I've only been on this campus twice since this has been installed, and for me it does that. It does exactly that. It gives me a sense of pride and honor to see this level of commitment. And we want all our students to feel that when they walk onto this campus. And a big reason why we foster a strength-based approach to sharing Indigenous ways of knowing and doing, to increase understanding of our people, our histories, our language, our arts and culture, and really just creating a welcoming, respectful, and culturally meaningful learning environment." There's a lot of work. There's a lot of work that's gone into this. Everything from identifying a potential project, the partner, the spaces, budget approval, contract, services, construction management, designing, planning, installation, lots of other checkpoints, just tons of stuff that goes into this. And so obviously it's a team effort, and it's only appropriate that we acknowledge some of the folks that had a big role in the creation of this. And so of course, starting with Les Lewis, a big thank you to you and your brilliant piece of artwork here. It's he has a really strong desire to share with us as we continually strive to foster a sense of belonging here for all students, while continuously increasing our awareness and understanding of Indigenous ways. I've had the pleasure of getting to work with Les on a few projects and just witness his admirable dedication to students, his family, and community as a whole. So I'll just say, we're humbled by your grace and opportunity to work with you, and extremely proud and honored to be able to display and share your work here. Marcy couldn't make it here today, but so for those that don't know Marcy, I think probably most of you would, but Marcy's been with the college for several years. She recently retired earlier this year, and so she's been a mainstay in our Aboriginal Service Department and in the college as a whole. No, she's enjoying her retirement, I think, but she's always there lending a helping hand, willing to offer some insight and direction, and her heart is always with students and community, and so she's dearly missed here on this campus for sure. Events like our Aboriginal Recognition Ceremony were spurred by her. So she'll leave a legacy of milestones, and hope she's enjoying a much-deserved retirement. We'll say thank you to Leon and Grace Grey Eyes for sharing that beautiful opening prayer and welcome to the territory. And I think it's important that we all take time to reflect on what Leon had shared with us today, and just reflect and think about what it means to each and every one of us, because it's going to mean something a little different. And my hands go up to folks like Leon and Grace and all the great work they do in our community. It's tough work, it's important work, but we're so honored to have you here with us and sharing your knowledge and wisdom and energy. So, Chimigwech. To PIB Chief and Council representatives, thanks for showing up today. To Jewel, she had a big part in this too, to always sharing their knowledge and energy pretty extensively for the betterment of Indigenous learners and our college community. Always striving to create a more equitable, inclusion-based culture here at the college that'll continue to open up doors for all learners and just enhance our college culture here. So our gratitude for you runs deep in all that you do. Didn't think it was this long. We'll get there. Like I said, lots of folks involved. So Jessica Allen, Humaira Hammond, I just had the pleasure of meeting today. Thank you for your support and helping make events like this possible. Always a pleasure working within the Aboriginal Service team, and we function more like a family than a team. And I will say I do miss working in my home department and supporting students and all the great work that you do. So it feels good to be here and a part of this. Graham Kershaw and the Facilities and Business Service staff, I don't think he made it out here today, but when we built our Nakulaman Garden in Kelowna, I had the pleasure of working with Graham on a personal level, and I've always just admired his genuine curiosity, and we had many good conversations sharing about the reasons why we do this kind of work. And so he's always keeping an eye out for the next latest project, and actually that's how this came to fruition. Graham had to cut down a tree. I don't know if it had pine beetle or what the case may have been, and through that conversation we came up with an idea and a plan, and Les seen it through to fruition. And so it's that good collegiality that we have in the work environment to share and just create opportunities and work together on this journey of reconciliation. A couple more. To Jack the Bear Construction for their safe, secure, and aesthetic installation of the story pole. And to Neil Facina for his great leadership and guidance to seek out new pathways within the college environment and enhancing our climate and our social culture here within the institution. And I know he's been with us only for a few short months, but I will say from my perspective, I know we're in good hands, and I'm excited to see this commitment grow and evolve as we continually embark down this journey. And of course, thank you to all the lovely Penticton staff and friends. It's always nice to come down here. I don't come down here too often, but it's always a welcoming space full of laughter and good conversation. So thank you to you as well. And so I'll close with just a couple of words here, and that's kind of reiterating what's been said here. But we have a responsibility and a commitment here at OC to the revival and preservation of Indigenous knowledge, language, and culture. And fostering positive working learning environments will involve some ongoing and systemic change to help facilitate such structural change. So we're committed to refining some resources and processes to continue the work on interweaving Indigenous knowledge into the fabric here of the college. and really just providing some long-term functionality, purpose, and meaning to each and every one of us.
For those of you who don't know, I am the acting dean of the South Okanagan Similkameen. So welcome to the campus today. For those of you who haven't been here, or if this is your first time, but I think, you know, gauging by who I see here, most of you have and are working here. So thank you for those of you who are new and who are coming here for the first time. And I can't thank Les enough for his contribution to creating a more inclusive campus, particularly for our Indigenous learners. But one of the things I always say is if we can get to a point where Indigenous learners feel safe and welcome on our campus spaces, then everybody will be. So thank you, Les. Thank you to our great elders here for helping us out today. And for those of you who may not know, I'm also Skaluch. I'm Silt Okanagan by way of West Bank. My brother is Jordan Coble. Some of you may or may not know him. He's on his trail to being a fluent speaker, so it's really special for me to be able to do that. Anyway, thank you all for coming today, a special day. I do want to invite you to come into the courtyard to see Les's other piece, and also that there's some refreshments for everybody to partake in. So thank you all for coming today. What a special day. And I know that this, as Anthony alluded to, and so did our president Neil, that this is hopefully just the tip of the iceberg, that the journey has just begun, and that we will one day realize a place where education isn't foreign to our Indigenous learners, but it's welcome and for all. So thank you all.